Good evening and welcome to the STS-119 post-launch news conference. We're pleased this evening to be joined by NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Operations, Mr. Bill Gerstenmaier, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency Vice President Yukihide Hayashi, Mission Management Chairman Mike Moses, and Shuttle Launch Director Mike Leinbach.
Good evening.
We will begin with opening comments and then take your questions. Mr. Gerstenmaier?
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here. I think when we work a little extra hard to get to the launch, I think it's even a little sweeter when the launch actually occurs. And this worked out just really wonderful. I can't thank enough the teams that worked so hard to get us here, the flow control valve team that worked many days to get ready and clear the flow control valve issue. That was a true team effort throughout NASA. We did work at Stennis and at the Glenn Research Center, at Marshall, at Ames. It was just the entire team pulled together to work that issue and get it resolved, and that was just a phenomenal effort. And then I can't say enough about the great team down here at KSC that took the GSC umbilical carrier plate activity and the hydrogen leak that occurred there, and they were able to work that and work over the past couple days to get that equipment back. They had a lot of critical work that needed to be done. It wasn't easy work, but they just did a phenomenal job, and I really want to thank them. I also want to thank the range folks that helped us with the range, that made sure that we could get a launch, a place to go fly. I know the WGS folks wanted to go fly as well, and they were very gracious to let us get on the range and go ahead and fly. So again, a tremendous team effort, tremendous work for folks. I can never say enough about these launches. This launch was really special. If you saw it and you saw the clouds and you saw the SRB separations, I don't think I've seen a launch that was as pretty as this one. So each one continues to amaze me. It continues to amaze me how strong the team is, how much they work together, how much they're dedicated, and what precision. And when that precision all comes to work and we have a flawless launch like this, it's just fantastic. So thanks.
I'm very happy to witness this successful launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery, on which JAXA's astronaut Koichi Wakata boarded. Mr. Koichi Wakata is on the board as a mission specialist this time, and he will replace astronaut Sandra Magnus. This mission marks the Japanese first resident ISS astronaut mission. And during his stay, he is going to perform full-scale space experiments in GEM Kibo. This mission is a giant leap for the Japanese manned space activity program. It will accumulate valuable knowledge and experience for the future Japanese space utilization program. The Kibo's overboard experiment platform and the overboard pallet will be launched soon. I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude to those who supported astronaut Wakata, both in Japan and the United States, especially to the NASA staff. And I sincerely hope your continued support to the Japanese space program. Thank you.
Let's see, folks, good evening. It's a whole lot sweeter being here today talking to you than it was a few days ago when we were talking scrub turnaround options. We came to do what we needed to do tonight, and it went off perfectly. Mr. Gerstenmaier kind of summed it up pretty good. I can't really say it too much better how fantastic the team work. You know, this started back last fall when we decided to put off the Hubble mission for a little while we worked some issues with the Space Telescope, and the 119 team suddenly found themselves as the prime team down here and the prime crew back in Houston. Got themselves trained and ready to go. We had some hiccups last month with flow control valves over this last week with the GUP on the ET vent line, but it all came together for us tonight, just the way we like to see it. It was really a very smooth launch countdown. We had a couple little issues. I'll let Mike tell you the details, but as a mission management team, there were really nothing of any significance. They were very easy things to approve with the paperwork process, basically documenting what we do if the next failure happened. So everything was good. Want to give a special thanks to the RSRM team, the reusable solid rocket motor team. This was their 100th launch since that redesign that happened after Challenger. So it's commendable that they've built a system that's working fantastic and has been almost perfect since that day. So congratulations to that whole team. We got the latest report from orbit. OMS 2's finished up. Everything's looking really good on the orbiter. and the crew's getting ready to configure from the rocket for ascent to the spaceship for orbit, and get ready to head up to the space station. So we're looking forward to them getting started with their mission. It's a very packed mission. Installing the S6 truss, getting the water distillation assembly on the station back up and running, prepping for STS-127, the 2JA mission with JAXA. All those things have to happen, and so the first part's down, but we got to focus on what's in front of us too, and look ahead. Looking forward to a really good mission on orbit. That's all I had, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Well, the countdown really was pretty smooth. We had a couple issues we worked, but really never constrained to T0. But the thing I'd really like to mention tonight is for the folks who watch this launch on TV, I really wish you could have been here in Florida. I've seen a lot of launches, either as a test director or the launch director, and this was the most visually beautiful launch I've ever seen. It was just spectacular. When the orbiter and the tank and boosters got up into the sunlight that had just set about 10 minutes prior, it was just gorgeous. And then separation, you could see the boosters coming back down to Earth, and we could see the orbiter from the firing room 7 minutes into flight, and at that point in time, the orbiter somewhere off the New Jersey and New York coast. Just a spectacular night. Really proud of the team who pulled together over the last few days to fix the hydrogen leak on the side of the orbiter on the ground support equipment. That worked just exactly as we had anticipated. The leakage there tonight was zero. Outstanding job. And then, of course, the flow control valve over the last 4 or 5 weeks have just been outstanding, and they got the flow award tonight after launch. Hundreds of people worked on that issue, and they deserve the award, and they got it tonight. So the countdown was smooth. We were all rewarded with a beautiful launch, and I'm just very proud to be part of this team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will take questions first here in Kennedy and then go to the Johnson Space Center. Please wait for the microphone, state your name and affiliation, and to whom your question is addressed. We'll start with Mike Schneider.
Mike Schneider, Associated Press. Question for Mike Leinbach. If you could just tell us how the flow control valves worked. Is there any indication that there was any kind of malfunction?
I didn't see any in the count. Did you see any going?
No, I talked to the flight director console before I came over here. They watched the data, reviewed it. Everything looked spot on with the pressure traces during ascent.
In the back here.
Pat Duggins, WMFE and National Public Radio, for Mr. Gerstenmaier. Since one set of the solar arrays was in the box for 5 years, the other for 8 years, any concern about possible sticks as we start to extend them, or anything differently for this deploy compared to others?
Again, we've had the luxury of learning and watching the other deploys, so the crews have a very detailed procedure on what to watch. As they deploy, they've got some nice step and hold positions they can do. They got some thermal conditioning they can go do. So we're prepared in case anything happens. We look at the data and we look at the way we stored them, and we think they should be okay. We didn't store them with pressure on them. We don't think they should stick, but we're prepared in case they do, and we've got the right procedures to go ahead and make sure that we can deploy them in a slow manner if we need to when it comes time to go deploy them. So we're ready to go get the solar arrays deployed and bring the space station up to full power.
Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today, I guess for Mike Leinbach. Do you know what happened to the bat?
Well, we had a bat that was on the side of the external tank. He was on the north and west side of the tank, which is the good side. It's away from the orbiter. We characterize him as unexpected debris, and he's probably still unexpected debris somewhere.
Mark?
Thanks. Mark Carruth from Houston Chronicle. Can you say anything about any obvious debris issues that you'd be following this soon, or is that to come? Thanks.
I think you looked.
Yeah, I went back and tried to find the team, and they had already disappeared. So then I had somebody go look for them, and we didn't see anything in the video. So we'll continue to look. They'll continue to pour over the data over the next couple days. But at first look, it looked pretty clean. So. I watched the video in real time. I didn't see anything in real time, and then we went and looked at the first quick look, and we didn't see anything at all in the first quick look. But again, some of the lighting conditions weren't optimum, and it'll take a little bit of time for the teams to go look, and we'll see what we get when we get some more detailed reviews. But it looked very good.
Vic?
Vic Ratner from ABC News. Did the crew report any debris going by or any debris hits?
Let's see, OMS 2 was just finishing up as we got here, so that's a little early. We asked for the crew debris report after that. once they get a little more stable on orbit. So a little early for that report.
In the front row, Craig.
Yeah, thank you. It's Craig Cavalt with Spaceflight Now. Bill, the performance of the vehicle and the team this week speaks for itself. But for a Washington guy, the president last week said there's a sense that NASA is adrift. Do you agree that NASA is adrift?
No. I think we're pretty focused here on what we're doing. We know exactly what we got to do to get the space station up and operational. We've got a good research plan. We're working very closely with our international partners. We're moving forward with those objectives. We're making very good progress on the constellation hardware, as you can see over in High Bay 4 of the VAB. So I think we're moving in a good direction. I think we can do a better job of communicating what we're doing with folks on the outside and let them know what we're doing. I think it's also up to all of us to explain a little bit what it takes to really go fly this vehicle. And it's not just this vehicle. I think it's any vehicle that goes to space requires a lot of attention to detail. You know, the flow control valve that we had a problem with, all vehicles will have some type of device to pressurize the tank. How that device is designed and how it works, it's got to be state of the art and has to really perform well. The umbilical carrier panel that we had trouble with, that same thing will sit on other vehicles. It sat on the Saturn vehicle as well in a similar design. So that the fact that our teams can work and be focused and resolve those problems, but yet still keep the big picture in play and make sure that we can figure out how to go get the mission accomplished is a huge plus for this team. And in that sense, I don't consider us being adrift. We're very focused. We know what we need to go do. We were able to remove an EVA from this flight to get back to 3 EVAs to get the work that needed to be done to continue steady progress towards where we are to get space station to a state where it can be more fully utilized and we can increase the crew size to 6.
Greg?
Greg Dobbs, congratulations, from HDNet Television. I'd like to look forward about 1.5 years to go, as things now stand before the fleet is retired. 8 more missions on the schedule, maybe 9. If you're going to keep that schedule, you've got to operate at a pace faster than you've been able to do in the last year or two, or maybe even a little more. Can you do it? I'll ask, I'm not sure who it's for. Maybe Bill, maybe Mike Leinbach, maybe both of you.
I don't know, kind of our answer is that we're going to take each one of these flights one at a time and focus on that next flight and then just continue to work it out and see how it comes across as we move forward. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but we're not going to do something dumb and push something and work too fast or push too hard. So we'll take the right steady pace and just keep moving forward with one flight at a time. And Mike, I don't know if you want to add.
Well, from a processing perspective, you know, our guys love to work on the orbiters, and we wish we had more flights than we do, frankly. But we are where we are. We're going to process and launch these, and like we said before, as long as they stay at a relatively good spacing, we should be able to make those with no problem at all.
May I ask to follow, what is the consequence if you don't? The consequence to the build out of the space station, amongst other things?
Well, again, we've kind of ordered the flights in a manner that if we have to drop a flight off the end, we can drop it off. The idea was we wanted to populate the space station with a lot of spares towards the end, so it could essentially operate without the shuttle being around until the commercial orbital commercial resupply services contracts come in place and until CEV gets flying. So we wanted to have station fully populated with spares to be in a more robust posture. If for some reason we can't achieve that and we have to drop a flight off, we'll leave space station a less than desired posture, but it still should be usable. It still should be able to meet its research objectives. So again, there's not a, you know, in our world, there's not a really it's okay, it's not okay kind of line. It just gets a little bit tougher, and we really want to get all those flights, but if we don't, we'll figure out a way to deal with them, and we'll be prepared.
Ada?
Adam Monsag, Univision. The mission has been shortened, but which of the original mission objectives will then have will not be accomplished at all?
Let's see. You know, the major mission objectives are going to be accomplished. We list them out in a priority table. I don't know exactly which ones are dropping off. I think when you look at it, we're at probably the 80-90% mark. So almost all the significant objectives are being accomplished. So I can't answer specifically which ones are dropping. Bill, I don't know if you know specifically.
Yeah. We had a couple EVA tasks. Some of the payload accommodation sites on the truss we were going to go ahead and deploy. Those were needed for ULF-3, which is a flight which is 4 flights away way. So there's plenty of time for us to pick them up during a stage or pick them up during one of the other flights that are there. So as Mike said, all the critical activities, the solar array deploy, the urine processor distiller assembly, that will get done. The portable water distribution bus activity, that will be done. The solar array deploy will be done. So all the major things that are needed will be completed, and all the tasks that need to be done prior to the 2JA flight in in June, all those tasks will be complete. So these are tasks that were, in a sense, get ahead that can be accommodated in one of the next 2, 3, or 4 flights down the road. So again, it's not a major setback to us. We're able to accomplish everything we want on this flight.
Curtis Kruger, St. Petersburg Times, for Mr. Gerstenmaier or anybody else who'd like to jump in. On the valve issue, it seemed to be kind of a slow and deliberate process of study, willingness to adjust the launch schedule, and I wonder, would that have gone the same way pre-Columbia? Were we maybe seeing the result of some of the post-Columbia reforms and the willingness to take maybe a slower pacing with this?
Boy, I don't know. It's hard to say. We kind of work the data that's given us, and when we see the data and we see something we don't like, we need to resolve it to the extent that we need to get it resolved before we can go fly. So it's tough to say if it's a pre or post Columbia thing. I think we always address those problems that we knew were problems with the same rigor. It's when we get surprised by something that we collectively don't think is a problem, and then it turns out to be a much bigger deal to us, like Columbia. That's when we get into trouble. So the thing that we need to do as a team is we need to stay hungry and keep thinking about things and kind of what if them and understand and look for other areas. Frankly, I worry a little bit when we work something like the flow control valve, because we're so focused on the flow control valve that we're not worried about all the other things and what other stuff could be out there that we might miss. So we got to be careful that we don't get so myopic and focus on that one individual item that we're not looking at the overall system and continuing to look at data. So what I encourage our team to do is to just continue to look and to ask questions. If a tech's assembling something and it doesn't go together exactly right, he should ask about it. We ought to talk about it. The same thing with an engineer. If you run an analysis and you see something that doesn't look exactly right, ask about it. We can take time and learn, and we can discover. We still continue to learn about this vehicle as many years as we've flown it, and we stay healthy flying and we stay safe flying as long as we stay inquisitive and we keep looking at the data and trying to understand what could happen, what might happen. But don't let that paralyze us as we see that, but move forward. So we have that tough objective. We have to fly, and we have to fly safe. So we have to do both of those, and we can't do one or the other. We have to do both. And the teams have done a very good job of being able to balance that.
Stefano?
Yes, Stefano Colledan for Italian State Radio and Television. Excuse me, for Mr. Gerstenmaier. What would it take for NASA to put its own astronauts on capsules that are being privately studied or developed here in the United States, especially since I believe the astronauts have said that they would not fly on non-manned rated rockets?
We have a set.
It is before Orion, obviously.
Yeah, we have a set of criteria that we've established that we would go look at and evaluate. Again, I think an approach that we're following now is we have some commercial resupply service contractors that are in place that are working on developing and launching cargo to space station, and also will return some cargo from space station. I think those rockets we'll gain experience with those. We'll see how well those rockets work, and then they might be the kind of the basis that you might then start thinking about moving into carrying crew on board. So we have a pretty formal process laid out that we would go through and review with the contractors before we would commit our crews to go fly on.
We'll take one more here and then come back. We'll go to Johnson Space Center and then come back here for follow-ups. Go ahead.
Oh, my name is Yoshitomi from Mainichi Newspapers. Mr. Gerstenmaier, Japanese government has begun to consider to have its own manned space scheme, like exploring on the moon. Well, does this affect American space program, and what do you think about the Japan's bid to come into this field?
Again, I think my experience with the Japanese Space Agency has been extremely positive in space station. The fact that they're getting ready to go fly the new HTV cargo transfer vehicle. In fact, they're going to do some captive test firings at Tanegashima, I think in the next month and the month after that. That's tremendous work. I think in space we really need to look at cooperation amongst nations and work together. And if the more countries that can contribute, it can help and bring resources to the table, the better it is for all of us. So I think when we go back to the moon, we want to do it jointly with international partners. We want to use space station as kind of a proving ground of how we can put together those international relationships, how we can use hardware together to accomplish those goals and then move forward to the moon. So I'm very supportive of those kind of activities. I think it's the way of the future to work internationally and to work as a team.
Okay, let's go to the Johnson Space Center for a question.
Gina Sinceri, ABC News for Mike Leinbach. So how many more surprises do you think the shuttle has with 10 remaining missions? It seems like it still has the ability to surprise you, Mike.
Surprise and delight. This is a tremendous program to work for, and you know, the team tonight just performed excellently. I promised everybody in the firing room to get a picture of the launch, because there's so many folks in the back of our firing room that can't see the beautiful view that Mike and I have and Gerst out the windows. How many surprises? You know, I don't know. Surprises are good. I'm a guy that likes change. I'm a guy that likes challenges, but I also like a beautiful liftoff, and we got all that tonight.
Okay, we're back here at Kennedy for a follow-up question. Todd?
Todd Halverson, Florida Today for Bill Gerstenmaier. NASA got $400 million in the stimulus package that was signed on February the 16th, and I'm wondering what options you're looking at for trying to minimize the gap with that $400 million. What options you're considering, whether you're considering doing an extra Ares test flight or what's out there to consider?
Yeah, I think that's really being looked at by the Exploration Systems Mission Directorate more than my group. So I know they're looking at all those things. They're looking at trying to build a more robust schedule and try to ensure that Ares is ready to fly and Orion's ready to fly as early as possible. But as far as details, you'd probably have to ask them rather than myself.
Hi, Clara Moskowitz for Space.com. Question for Mr. Hayashi. Can you tell us how much this mission is being followed by people in Japan and what Mr. Wakata's flight might mean to the Japanese people?
If you don't mind, may I return the question through an interpreter. 日本の非常に多くの方が若田さんのこの飛行、特に今日の成功を喜んでいると思います。
First of all, so many Japanese people are very, very happy and watching Mr. Wakata's successful flight.
日本の担当大臣もぜひ見たいと言っとったんですけれども、残念ながら国会の関係で来れませんでした。しかしそういう意味では非常に大臣も含めて非常にこのフライトに注目をしております。
The Minister of Mixed Japanese Education and Technology Ministry's head wanted to come over here to see the launch, but because of the schedule, he was not able to come. So this flight or this launch was very much focused, taking attention.
このフライトの意味としては、日本の宇宙飛行士として初めて長期滞在をするということが目玉であります。
The meaning for this mission for the Japanese people is that this marks the very first long-stay mission by the Japanese astronauts.
従来は2週間前後の滞在だったんですけれども、非常に長い期間でそれ以外のいろんなことが可能になるというふうに考えておりますので、我々非常に期待をしております。
In the past, the Japanese astronauts stayed only 2 weeks or so, but this time the astronaut will stay much more longer. During that time, he can accomplish a lot of things.
それから若田さんが帰ってくる時に打ち上がりますシャトルで日本のモジュールの希望の最後の3つの最後の部分が打ち上がります。それを完成して帰ってくるということで、これも非常に日本の有人宇宙技術の進展にとって意味があると考えています。
And also, before Mr. Wakata comes back on the shuttle flight, that shuttle flight brings three final parts of the Japanese experiment module Kibo. So, in other words, he will finish building up the Japanese experimental module Kibo. So it is very, very meaningful for the Japanese manned space program.
Frank?
Frank Mooring with Aviation Week, also from Mr. Hayashi. I understand that Japan is going to have a new space law, I believe, next month. And I wonder if you can tell us if that law will have a particular area of emphasis for Japan for the global exploration strategy, particularly on the moon, power, HAB, communications, that sort of thing.
新しく始まる法律ではどのエリアにフォーカスを置いているんですか。特にそのグローバルな発展というふうな意味で、月のこととか、それからその他のエネルギーのこととかも含めてお話しください。
日本の宇宙に関係する法律は実は去年ベーシックロー基本法って格好で成立いたしました。
The Japanese law about the space called the Basic Space Law was already inaugurated last year.
これは今まで個別にあったいろんな計画を総理大臣が直轄して総理大臣の下で直轄して計画を作るという趣旨を含めた法律です。
The importance of this basic space law is to converge all the different space-related laws into one basic law.
どうじゃなくていろんな計画を一つ。
Excuse me. Converge a lot of different programs into one program under the leadership of Prime Minister.
でその下に担当大臣が置かれまして、その担当大臣が現在今後10年程度の長期的なプログラムを作成中です。
And we appointed the new minister for that purpose, and this minister is now planning to establish a program in 10 years program.
でこれによりまして特に日本で従来少し遅れておると言われました例えば宇宙の産業利用あるいはその有人技術そういったものを含めてこれから日本がどうしていくかということを今議論している途中でございます。
In the past, Japan didn't have any program for the industrial use of the space, or we have a weak manned space program. So in this delayed area of the Japanese space program, we would like to catch up with this new program.
この新しいプログラムは今年の夏には出来上がるというふうに考えております。
This new program will be finished making by the end of summer.
Yeah, John Ellis, Tokyo Broadcasting System. This is a question for Mr. Gerstenmaier and Mr. Hayashi. Recently we've seen collisions in space, increasing orbital debris. I just wonder how that has reprioritized NASA's and JAXA's and other international organizations' policies and objectives in terms of removing that debris and getting in or converging your own communication about that debris amongst yourselves.
するというふうなプランはありますか？
We actively track the debris, or we have actually the Air Force tracks the debris for us, and then they provide us with the information, and then we do the calculations about how close our assets like space station or other spacecraft, NASA spacecraft, could be to the debris. And then if there's a collision avoidance maneuver, we have a detailed set of flight rules. Those really haven't changed from the beginning, so they're the same basic process that we continue to use. And in fact, I think we're even tracking a piece now that's potentially going to come close to space station that we may end up doing something with here as the shuttle approaches. So we've already coordinated that with folks, and we've tracked things. I think it's getting more attention in the media recently because of the recent collision than it has in the past. But it's always been a serious consideration for us and something that we really need to watch out for. In terms of our own rocket design, we're careful that if we can design like the second stage or other pieces of the rocket as it goes to orbit so it doesn't become debris, we're going to try to do that in the future, and we've been doing that all along to try to minimize the source of the debris to begin with. So I think we're aware of it on both sides. I think that there's more attention to it now than there's been in the past, but it's always been a consideration that we really need to watch, and we share information back and forth. I know in one of the science experiments, is a Japanese science experiment that we're using jointly with them. We provide information to them about collision potentials with that particular device.
この問題はやっぱり国際的な協調が一番重要だと思っています。
For this kind of problem, the international coordination is very important, I think.
一般的に日本の方もこのスペースデブリについては観測をしております。
And we are observing space debris from Japan too.
その情報を持ちながらメインはもちろんアメリカの情報ですので、アメリカの情報を見て、その上でいろいろ連絡を取り合って対応を考えるということになっているというふうに承知しています。
The main source of the information is the United States, so we are analyzing and looking at this information, and we are communicating closely with the United States.
Greg?
Hi, Greg Dobbs again, until I check my email, still with HDNet. This is a question about the plan to depend on Soyuz to take American astronauts, Japanese astronauts, European, Canadian astronauts to the station after Shuttle stops flying. Certainly Soyuz has proved a reliable vehicle. The Russians have proved to be reliable partners in the arena of space. But there were reservations expressed before the waiver in Congress, before the contract was signed with Russia. And my question is this, maybe to Bill, once again, at the upper executive levels in NASA, do you talk about concerns for the political outcome of rifts that come up from time to time? The possibility that there could be problems between the United States and Russia that could affect the arrangement to fly our astronauts to the station on the Russian spacecraft?
Yeah, again, I think technically we have a very good understanding and relationship with each other. We both need to have crews taken to space station. We need to have U.S. crews there to help maintain our equipment that actually supports the Russian side. So there's a technical desire for us to all keep flying in space to make sure we can effectively utilize space station. I think the other concern is almost the opposite. Is when we had Columbia, if we wouldn't have had the Russians there to provide rescue capability, or transportation capability for us during that time frame, we would have had to demand space station and come back home and stop operations. I think the concern is you would like to have more than one transportation system. Not necessarily that it's a U.S. or Russian. You would like to have some redundancy in your transportation system in case a problem occurs to your fleet that you can back up on another one. So I think the largest risk probably to us during this time frame is we'll be dependent upon a single vehicle for crew transportation. The other thing we need to also be aware of is that cargo transportation is also extremely critical for us. If we don't have the proper food and water and supplies and research experiments and equipment on board space station, we can't utilize space station very effectively. So then there's really no need to go fly the crew. So when the shuttle quits flying, we're going to lose a tremendous capability to take cargo to station, and we're going to be very dependent upon our commercial companies that are coming online, SpaceX and Orbital, who we just recently awarded a contract to deliver that cargo. So we need to not make sure that we don't get so focused on the crew transportation piece, we miss the criticality of the cargo piece, and we need to make sure that cargo piece is there to keep station functional and operational, or there's no need to take crew to and from station.
My name is Hajime Tobe with Kyodo News. For Mr. Gerstenmaier, you have the new administration, President Obama. So could you tell me the current situation of the discussion on the use of the ISS after 2015?
We're beginning to have some discussions with the administration now about continuing to use the space station. I think we can show that the space station can provide a tremendous asset to the U.S. It also aligns very well with many of the objectives that the new administration has brought forward. I think space station can be used as an effective tool to foster education. I think it can be used as a tool to push research further forward. It can be clearly used in the fields of healthcare, those kind of items. We're looking at some salmonella vaccine that we've been working on board with space station. We also have been looking at some of the diseases or problems that our astronauts face are problems similar to what the elderly face, the bone loss situation, some of the momentary disorientation the crews have when they return are similar. So I think we can utilize the uniqueness of space to solve some of the problems here on Earth. So I think we're starting to have discussions with the new administration about how the space station can be utilized to solve or at least address some of the issues and concerns that they would like us to do forward. So we're just beginning those discussions with them now about continuing to utilize the space station. We're trying to show how it provides real benefit, real tangible benefit to the U.S. and to the new administration.
Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today again, one for Gersten and one for Mike Leinbach. For Gerst, I'm wondering what you know about the search for a new NASA administrator and when you expect to hear a decision and who you personally would nominate if you had the choice. And for Mike Leinbach, I just wondered if you could give us a sense of how things are looking for the Hubble Space Telescope mission in May.
Well, to your first question, even though I live in Washington, I'm a little more focused on the tactical side than the strategic side, so I don't really know much about the plans for a new administrator or where we're heading. And in terms of a vote, my vote doesn't count, so I won't even bother you with my opinion. So
as long as it's not you, right?
Yes, as Mike said, as long as it's not me, it's okay.
The processing for Hubble's going fine. We're gonna roll out of the OPF on the 23rd of this month, and then out to the pad a week later. So we're right on track with that orbiter.
Okay, I think we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you all for coming. We'll get back to live mission coverage. A reminder that NASA Television will carry the STS-119 mission around the clock through the planned landing on March 28. And as always, you can follow the activities of the shuttle mission at www.nasa.gov/shuttle. Thank you again for coming.